That is the 2020 BMW X4M, and it might be the most usable M car ever made. New for this year, BMW has released two new M cars, the X4M and the X3M. From this angle, it is really easy to tell the X4 from the X3. The X3, of course, has a more traditional roofline, more like a standard SUV, where the X4 looks more like a coupe. Probably the coolest feature on the interior of the X4M are these buttons right here, M1 and M2. If you're familiar with M cars, you'll probably notice what they do, but they're shortcuts for the individualized driving modes. When I mention driving modes, I'm not just talking about a sport, a comfort, a sport plus mode. I can control everything on this car, from the engine here, to the suspension, to even the steering level. Now, BMW actually refers to these models as SAVs, Sport Activity Vehicles, because there's not a lot of off-road ability going on under the skin of this M. To start with, it's rolling on 21-inch wheels, and those are wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which are about as summer and track going as you can get on any new vehicle. So you're not going to be taking this SAV into some mud. But you probably wouldn't expect it to be able to go through mud and ruts and rivers because of this badge right here. That's right, this is a full-fledged BMW M car. And what does that give you? Well, if you're up on your M cars, and if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you are, then you know that the BMW X4 comes with two engines currently, a 2-liter 4-cylinder and a 3-liter 6-cylinder. So you're probably expecting the M to have a 12-liter W9. Well, you'd be wrong, because this M4 actually has a brand new engine, a 3-liter 6-cylinder. And if you just heard my previous sentence, you're probably a little bit confused, but hear me out on this one. Okay, this is where you're gonna have to pay a lot of attention. Now, the current generation BMW M3 has a turbocharged straight 6. And the current generation X4 M40 also has a turbocharged straight 6. And this car also has a turbocharged straight 6. And none of those engines are actually all that related. Now, it would make sense for BMW to take the M40i engine, increase the power a little bit, and call it a day. But that's not what they've done, because this is the new S58 straight 6. 3 liters, just like the M40 version, but BMW says it's 90% new.
It's the strongest ever straight 6-cylinder we put in our series cars. Compared to its predecessors in the M3, M4, it's a 100% new engine.
Okay.
And compared to the car you mentioned, we have 90% of completely new developed parts here inside this engine. 90%, yes.
Wow. Now, what do they mean by that? Well, let's look at some basic numbers. So, this engine in the competition develops 510 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque. In the X4 M40i, it develops 355 horsepower. It also has two turbochargers, single scroll turbochargers. So the standard 3-liter you'd find in an X4 actually has one dual scroll turbocharger. I know, a little bit confusing.
Here we have two independent turbochargers, monoscroll.
So tell me about why you decided to go for twin on the M engine. The twin turbos versus the single.
because of performance, power.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you look at making those twin scroll turbos because they're just single scroll? Right?
For an engine with two turbochargers, it makes no sense to do a twin scroll, because you have independent turbochargers, and there is no need to balance the smoothness of the turbocharger by the cylinders.
There are actually two flavors of X4M as well. So the base model, the X4M, gets that 3-liter straight 6 that develops 480 horsepower. However, if you step up to the competition, you get a blacked out grille, blacked out accents along the side, you get black exhaust pipes. Oh, and you also get 510 horsepower. The competition also comes standard with the 21-inch wheels. And check this out, competition badging on the inside as well. You'll see it even here in the center console. Plus, you get these M Sport seats, which are really fantastic. Not only do they look great, but they actually are really soft as well. Plus, this is one of my favorite features, you have the adjustable bolsters that move in and out to really fit your body type. There's more though, because the X4M is not merely a pretty face with a big heart, because they had to completely re-engineer the driveline on this car as well. It borrows the majority of its drivetrain from the M5. So it's a rear-wheel drive biased all-wheel drive system. It can actually distribute 100% of torque to the rear wheels alone. And I can't tell you how it drives because driving impressions are embargoed until later this week. But I can certainly let you hear it. So that glorious sound is actually helped by this little button right here, because this vehicle has an active exhaust system, and if you push this button it opens a flap in the exhaust and lets it breathe. It is worth noting as well that BMW does augment or add to the sound a little bit through the speakers when you have this button pushed. Look at those gauges. These are unique gauges to the X3, X4M. A really great looking design. I like how part of the gauge is actually material here, but the inside is all electric. So configurable gauge cluster as well, which is super nice. And I can go ahead and cycle through a lot of important information. Hiding behind these big 21-inch wheels, well, not really hiding at all, are those big M brakes with the blue calipers. Now it's worth noting there's also been an M treatment to not only the engine and drivetrain, but the chassis as well. They've really incorporated new struts into this X4M that make it significantly stiffer than a standard X4. Of course, being an M car, we have the stripes on the key, and let's take a look at the trunk really quick. Power liftgate. And check that out. A really ample amount of cargo room. The rest of the interior is all pretty standard X3, X4. Of course, you do get the M steering wheel, the M starting button, you got the M shifter, and even some carbon fiber accents across the dashboard, which is nice. But iDrive is pretty standard. Of course, now it has touchscreen, it also has Apple CarPlay, and a great wireless charger. One issue I have noticed quite a lot in this car is the position of the volume and the temperature knob. They're not all that different in terms of size, and it is just far too easy to adjust the temperature when you mean to adjust the volume. Now, pricing for the X4M starts at just over $73,000. And if you want the competition package that gives you the blacked out accents and of course 510 horsepower, well, that one starts at $80,000. Now, of course, if you want to save a little bit of money, get this car's sister, the X3M, because it's got the same underpinnings, but it starts at roughly 70 grand. Of course, if it were my money, I'd probably get this one, the X4M Competition. I like the sloping roofline, and how do you not like more power? Plus, it looks brilliant in red. I also really love this shifter. Actually, it's probably my favorite BMW shifter on the market, because what it does that's kind of unusual is when I go into reverse, it stays in position. It doesn't bounce back like the other systems. I also like how drive is just a simple push to the right. It's very easy to use. Plus, I like the red accents, your park button right there. It's all simple, much more intuitive than some of the other ones. It is also worth noting, however, that the tires are staggered in size. Now, the rear tires are two 65/40 ZR21s, where the front tires are two 55/40 ZR21s. Now, if you are like me, you probably dream of owning an M3 someday. But I also know that this is the real world, and I have to take people places, and I have to haul things and carry things and drive through the snow. And the X4M offers all of that capability with an M badge on the side. Now, BMW says that the standard X4M will do 0 to 60 in 4.2, where the competition will do it in 4.1. which makes it quite an impressive performer. So if you really are jonesing to see an X3M or X4M in your driveway, well, they're coming this summer, July in fact. And as always, I'm Tommy with the Fastlane Car. Go back to tflcar.com for more news, views, and real-world reviews. And be sure to come back where I have a full review on this vehicle along with driving impressions. That's all coming.